Who am I as a person? What are the things that matter to me? I busted my collarbone. It actually came out of my blood. If you don't hit rock bottom, you won't know what real grit and real struggle is like.
Welcome to the Neo Retro 1059's official podcast. It's called Casual Conversations. We are so excited for today because we have award-winning singer-songwriter as well as all-around amazing person, Nicole Laurel Asensio. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Ryan. Thank you for having me today. And thank you to all the listeners of Neo Retro 1059. It's an honor to be here. I'm so happy to be here today.
No, thank you so much for making time for us. I want to start with, and I feel like this has become a question for every meeting. I'm not sure if you have online meetings as well for your line of work, but for every online meeting, for every get together that we have, the rare ones, it's always, kamusta ka na amidst the pandemic? So I want to start with that question. So how have you been amidst lockdown?
Thank you for your thoughtfulness and for asking. And you know what? You've just done something great because it's so important to reach out to those, even those people who seem like, they have everything together, and ask how people are doing, because everybody has a different way of dealing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I've been okay. I mean, there are always days that are challenging for me,
Right.
for anyone, for any of you. But I guess I have to look at the side of life that I'm grateful for, because the pandemic brought about a lot of trouble and a lot of hardship, especially for us, like in the arts industry, the live events industry. We completely shut down. But artists have a way of just making the best of what they have. They're innovative, they're creative, and I was fortunate enough to learn from those around me and to still be able to write, still be able to make music, and still be able to connect with you guys given the advent of all this digital, connection,
Mhm.
all this
Yeah.
this internet craze and content. Content's really king nowadays, and so I'm still grateful. And there are a lot of things that happen, but at the same time, it's the first time in many years that I've had quiet time to think, to really assess my thoughts and figure out what is important to me. I've had time to pray. I've had time to eat
Yeah.
with my housemates, or have a conversation with my mom. And I feel like if the world didn't go on hard lockdown, so many of these things may have been taken for granted,
Mm-hmm.
because we're busy, because we're constantly moving in this rat race. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, I will still have bad days, as we all may, but I'm grateful.
Dude, that is such a great word, gratefulness, because that's one of the things that we always highlight here at the station, here at Neo Retro 1059's. It's about being grateful with what you have, or rather for what you have, instead of focusing on the lack of things that you want to have in your life. Just to share, because I was talking to Nicole off the air a while ago, because we had an hour interview on air as well. She asked me what were the new things that you learned amidst the pandemic, because you know how some people now are into fitness, they're now into well, for some people they became plantitos, plantitas.
Guilty.
And it made me reflect, and I was like, you know what, I learned nothing new as far as skills is concerned. I learned nothing new amidst the pandemic, but also it was only during the pandemic that I really came to appreciate like my own worth, like my self-worth. There's also the power of resting. I realized I was burning myself out from like one job to another, and I'm not sure if you've also experienced that as an artist. Not necessarily during the pandemic, but have you ever experienced burnout as well, Nicole?
Absolutely. And I love what you said about gratitude. I do believe in keeping up the gratitude attitude, is what I like to call it. But
Yeah.
prior to the pandemic, I was just being busy, because for me, I would glorify that lifestyle, the hustle culture. That was my be all end all before the pandemic. And
Mhm.
wow, was I wrong. I was so wrong, because I let what I do define my worth. And I'm still guilty of that sometimes. Why? Because I love my job, and it's not a bad thing to love your job. But when you run yourself into the ground thinking that it's all you're worth, then that's where you get into trouble, because at some point you're bound to fail. We're human. We're designed to fail. We're not perfect. And then you kind of are forced to look at what really matters. What about all those other things, those other parts of life that you may have forgotten because you were so busy? And that's what happened to me. And I actually had another interesting conversation with Marco of Neo Retro
Right. Yeah.
off air too, and we were talking about the things that go into being an artist. And since you mentioned it also, like what people see, the part that you're on stage for or on air for, that's like 10% of the rest of the life. And you know, I've heard comments from people like, wow, sarap ng trabaho mo. You get paid to, you know, jump
To
around on
perform,
stage, to
have
perform.
fun. Yeah.
Yes, I'm grateful for that. That's part of what we do. However, what we also do is we get nervous, we feel down about ourselves, we feel unprepared sometimes. We take criticism from crowds, we get bashed sometimes, whether we deserve it or not. We fear what's gonna happen if we don't have work. We miss all our loved ones' birthdays and Christmas sometimes. Those are the other parts of a performer's life that we don't really talk about. And I mean, I shouldn't complain because it's a great life. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But it's one that really involves more than just being on stage and having fun. That's part of it. So when I look at those things, I can't help but be grateful because you know it's such a short life that we have also. You know, you never know when your time will come, and so I would like to do it for as long as I can. However, when the world went on hard lockdown, I was also forced to look behind it and be like, okay, outside of that, who am I as a person? What are the things that matter to me as a person? Not me as a person on stage, but just me as a person. Who are the people who matter? How am I connecting with them? How am I giving them my time, my energy? You know, so, you know, how am I walking in faith? That matters too. So I think the introspection that came about with this pandemic is something that we were all forced to do because we all needed it. Our souls needed it. Absolutely needed it.
Right. Dude, I want to ask you, since you brought it up, how are you able to differentiate Nicole Asensio, the performer, to Nicole Asensio, the person? Because I feel like those are, based on how you said it, those are two different people.
Oh, yeah.
And those are, like, again, two different people with two different needs and two different priorities. So how are you able to differentiate Nicole Asensio, the performer, from Nicole Asensio, the person?
Well, it feels funny for me to actually talk about myself in third person, but yeah, I guess who I am off stage, I'm a little more introverted. I'm a little more private. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide, but um I am very selective with who I give my time to. I have a very, you know, small, trusted group of friends who I
Mm-hmm.
open up to. I mean, I like to be friendly with everyone, but my heart is reserved for, you know, the few people who are close to me. And I'm socially awkward, you know,
I feel you. I am too. I
I'm
am.
not good at you know decorum and things like that. I make mistakes. I can be a messy person, and I mean in terms of social awkwardness, at home I'm the opposite of a messy person. I'm a little bit OC to a fault. Like my housemates will sometimes complain because you know I like to label everything. I like everything in its spot, and yeah, I guess everyone has their quirks, as do I. But when I'm on stage, kasi parang that's the freedom of it. You can be whatever the song requires you to be. So I would say I'm probably a little bit more confident as what people might think they see, but deep inside I'm a nervous wreck. Like I'm literally on the verge of just passing out because I'm so nervous and I get terrible stage fright. That's who I am as a person.
Oh, you know what? Hearing from someone like you who's years into the industry and to say that you still have stage fright, that is so interesting. How do you deal with that?
it never goes away. Whether it's like two people in front of me or like I don't know 20,000 people in front of me, I would be just as nervous. But I think it's just part of the process because I care about what I do,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm afraid to make mistakes. And there's always that moment like, oh, am I gonna screw it up? Am I gonna screw it up? But I think it's just once you release it, once you get through that first song, hopefully
Mm-hmm.
you have more than one song to sing, right? Sometimes you only have one song, then those performances really make me nervous. Like, oh my gosh, when I'm
Right.
asked to do something like sing the national anthem, then I get really nervous because A, you can't screw that up legally. B, um, you only get one shot. So hopefully there's more than one song. But if you only have one song, I get really nervous. And then you kind of just have to let go. And honestly, I still consider myself a noob in the industry. I don't by any means consider myself a veteran, but it's something I'm constantly learning. It's an internal struggle. It's just let go and enjoy yourself because when you do, the audience does too. And sometimes I have to remind myself to think a little less of myself and what I'm thinking of and just give. You know?
And I think that also says what an amazing person you are. Like, because you are mindful of other people and you are mindful of having to learn and keep on going through the process. So hats off, again, thank you so much for just sharing that with us because I feel like that is such useful information for aspiring musicians or performers because a lot of people might think kasi she's already years in, she's no longer experiencing a lot of these things like stage fright, and a lot of people might even think na when you reach a certain level you don't have to learn new things anymore. But hearing from you that you still keep on learning, you still experience stage fright, I think that's such a wonderful message for people who want to get into the industry.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for saying that. I mean, I could say the same about you. You've been in this industry for a long time and you started off so young. And I think, well, I would like to be the kind of person who keeps learning till the day I die. I don't ever want to see myself in a spot where I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I know what I need to know. You can't tell me what to do
What to
and what to
do,
not.
yeah.
There's always room to improve. And there's always room to fail because failing is part of it. If you
Yeah.
don't hit rock bottom, you won't know what real grit and real struggle is like. And I think as creators, as artists, as musicians, we need that grit. Not
Mm-hmm.
it can't be too perfect because it gets boring. You need a little pain to be able to cut through and connect with people because the world also has a lot of pain, but we can't stay there for a long time. That's the difference. As artists, we need to be able to tap into that pain and then use it and get out of there so that you can also be a vessel to inspire others.
Thank you for saying that. I want to focus on you as an artist. Since we're talking about performing and the things that you're learning, I want to go back to the very, very start. As I was doing my research on you, I found, and we were talking about this off air a while ago as well, that you actually started off as a musical artist or as a person who does musicals. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were 5, you were approached by one of the creators of Les Mis to do Cosette, right?
Oh my goodness. Well, I cannot take the credit for my musical inclinations because it's actually more my family members who are active in the whole theater game. My uncle Kokoy is a huge inspiration to me. He's actually one of the people who taught me how to sing. And my other grandma on my father's side, Fides Kuyugan, she gave me voice lessons as a child. So it's through their experiences that I got whatever tiny exposure I got as a kid. But being that young, I didn't really realize the magnitude of what I was doing. I was just being a kid, running around and like singing whatever.
Right.
And one of those nights that my grandparents were having dinner, my uncle Kokoy had a guest, and his guest was Mr. Schonberg, who is the composer of Les Mis. As a kid, like I didn't know anything, I was
He was just another guest for you,
yeah,
right?
I would
Yeah.
listen to Les Mis, and of course, as a child, I was like overwhelmed, and I didn't quite fully grasp the whole, play or musical at the time. But they asked me to sing for him, and I just sang it in my little kiddie way, I didn't I didn't, think of it as like a wow performance. Like, I was just having fun. And he did make contact with my uncle, and I thought that was very nice of him. But I was just so young that to just think of a career at the time was out of my headspace.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I made a promise to my family that I would graduate college before pursuing any kind of professional career in music or performing. I actually didn't want to be a performer. I
Oh
wanted to be
wow.
something else. I wanted to be a lawyer. So up until applying for college, I thought pre-law was where I was going to go, and I realized very quickly that I was not built for it. So it's not for everyone. So I guess I ended up where I was supposed to be.
That's so interesting to me. How? Because a lot of people see you as a rocker. Because of you as you said a while ago, you are a band creature,
Yeah.
and that you do perform on stage, and then when you perform, you captivate everybody with like you jump around and you have fun. But I go back to people know you as a rocker. So from when you were 5 and you were being told, "Hey, we want you to play Cosette for Les Mis," and then I also know that you did Rent. How did you find your style as a musician? To as a child, you grew up doing musicals to now doing rock.
Oh wow. It was a weird winding path, I suppose. Because of my family's influence, I was more inclined to musical theater, even a little bit of classical. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was so funny when I was a kid. They you would get your injections, like your bakuna, your vaccine. That word is like, all over the place
And you'd
these days.
cry and you'd complain to your
Yeah,
mom.
I was not allowed to cry as per my grandmother. She was like, "Don't cry. It's a misuse of your vocal cords. Sing. When you're hurt, you sing." So I'd be like the only kid in the doctor's office, like, "Oh," It was
She
not
just full on belted right now. Like
as
it
a
was
joke,
nothing.
as a
Like it
joke.
was nothing.
as a joke. So imagine like this little kid doing that. I mean, like, yeah, I was that weird kid. So, I didn't have that many friends. I had like a couple friends, but growing up, I guess my rebellious nature took over, and I started listening to rock and roll because it was such a form of expression and
Mhm.
rawness, and all of a sudden the singing didn't have to be perfect. It just had to cut through and be powerful. And I was like, wow, what is this musical form called rock and roll? I like it. And so I towards the end of college, I took a little break because I was recovering from a shoulder accident surgery, and that was a time when I really made more friends in the band scene because I wasn't in school, I wasn't in class, so I was hanging out with some of the older bands, listening to rock and roll. One of the first bands I bonded with was actually Razorback. I mean, locally, right? And so I learned a lot from them, and I started listening to more and more rock, and then that's where I ended up because it was an arena where there weren't very many women. I mean, there have
Mhm.
been female rock and rollers before my time, of course, right? Of course, there's Sampaguita, there's Kokichua, there's so many. And there have been some also after our time. But during that particular time, in the early 2010s, late 2000s, there weren't that many women. So I thought it was a cool place to be, to express myself as a woman and write songs that were, rock and roll.
Right, right. I want to go back to what you said a while ago, which is you did not want to become a musician and that you thought you were going to be a lawyer. Just for the purpose of, I guess, painting a picture, what school did you go to, if you don't mind sharing with us?
Well, I went to La Salle, Animo, but my professors were
Green.
also from Ateneo, so I have a little bit of both. My parents were both from UP, so I'm a very mixed-blooded student, I guess.
Right. And can you paint us a picture of what were you like as a college student? What if you had to describe yourself in one word? Like what word comes to your mind?
Oh, I was too young to be in college, if you ask me. I came from an Americanized school. I came from ISM. So when I transferred, there was a little bit of difference with the grades, I guess, how they count the grades, the level you're in. So I was a little bit younger than all my batchmates. So I was finding myself. I was like 15 when I was in college. So I didn't know anything, you know. I was a little bit of a bad girl back then. I made bulakbol, but I fell in love with the course that I ended up with. So instead of pre-law, I ended up in literature. And I loved it because I loved my professors. So I was a bad girl, but I also got good grades. So at least my balance.
You were like every parent's is like
Nightmare.
no, I was gonna say perfect daughter because
Who
you had
wants a bad girl?
no, but you had good grades.
Yeah.
And that's like every Asian parent's is like number one criteria for a good child.
Towards the end, I had good grades. In the beginning, not really, because I was like finding myself, and I dressed very differently back then. I used to wear my dad's like he would have these malongs, you know,
Uh-huh.
those fisherman pants. I would wear that. That was my school uniform, and like a tank top and a lot of like tribal jewelry, and my hair was always long and messy. It was,
Right, right.
that was my attire back then. That was my school uniform in college.
Okay, now that you've painted us a picture of when you were in college and when you were younger, let's fast forward to the Nicole of today. And I want to know, what do you think is the number one thing that you've learned? If you had to choose like one life lesson that you've learned from back then to now, like what would that life lesson be?
Wow. Well, you learn something every day, right? But I guess as of lately, what I'm learning is that everything we have, the good things, the bad things, you know, the experiences, the blessings we have, it's just borrowed. None of it is really ours. At the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of our lives, we get to give it back to our Creator. So it has made me think, what do I do with what I've been given? Certainly, I haven't been given everything. There are many things that I don't have, or that I lack, or that I need to learn. But with the stuff that I do have today, how do I make it matter? How do I use what I am given to make others feel, to make others remember, or think, or act? Because that's my job as an artist. It's not my job to shine all the time. I mean, that's part of it. It's fun, yes. It goes with the territory. I recognize that. But at the end of the day, I'm learning that I'm just a vessel. I just carry a message. And at the end of the day, I'm going to have to return whatever I borrowed to my Creator. So while I'm still here, while I'm on earth, what can I do to do my best? Or to make it matter? Or to be different? Or to say something that will help somebody? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, I guess that to summarize is just that nothing is really ours. It's just borrowed.
I want to focus on what you said a while ago, which is you want to be able to send a message, right? As a performer, as an artist, you want to send out a message. What would that message be for, let's say, 2021 Nicole? Because I understand as artists, maybe who knows, it might change in the future, right? But for you today, like, what would that message be?
Whew. That it's gonna be okay. A lot was taken away from us. A lot is still being taken away from us. We're being put through the ringer. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a design. I really, have faith that there is a design for us. And that design is not for us to end up nowhere. We just have to keep walking. And the cool thing about it, despite all the bad stuff, is that when our time comes out of this crazy pandemic or whatever we're going through in that season of our lives, we're gonna get out of it a 2.0 human being. You know what I mean? We have new skills. We have like new coping skills now. We're stronger. We're a stronger, more faithful breed. And I just wanna, share that with you guys and say keep that in mind. Because yeah, we're gonna fall on our ass, excuse my language, but we get up.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
get up and we keep walking.
Spoken like a true lit major.
With the word ASS in it.
DLS, you should sponsor us.
Oh, hey!
Kidding. Okay, I want to focus on you as an artist this time around. Because one of the news articles that really caught my attention was you were able to work with Grammy nominated producer Blue Hamilton for your single See Through. And for those of you guys who don't know who Blue Hamilton is, he's worked with artists like Justin Bieber, Robin Thicke. What was that like for you? And sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. How did you meet him, and how was it like for you working with him?
Okay, so this was totally random. I don't know if Blue will ever be able to see this or listen to this, but hello. Hi, Blue. Thanks for doing this thing with me. Um, yeah, so I posted a song, an original song, which was actually in Tagalog called
Mm-hmm.
Atin Lamang. Because early in the pandemic, I was doing home videos, as we all were.
Yeah.
And I named the series Quarantunes. So it was
Ah,
like 20
witty.
episodes of just, home jams. So he commented on one of the Tagalog songs. And then he just like put like a nice comment and the fire emojis. So I was like, his Instagram handle looks familiar. Like, parang I know this guy. Like, who's this guy? So I clicked.
Uh
And I
huh.
was thinking maybe it's a fake account or whatever. When I clicked, siya talaga. So it's like, oh my gosh, right? So
It's him.
Yeah, it's him.
Yeah.
And he's a little bit familiar with the music scene here because he's been here to the Philippines before as a songwriting mentor, but I did not get to meet him then. So I messaged him, I thanked him, not expecting a reply, and he did reply.
Uh huh.
And then, we'd react to each other's stories or whatnot. Eventually, we would talk, and then we got on a WhatsApp call, which I was expecting to be very quick, but we actually ended up talking for like 4 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he shared a little bit about his life and what he was up to, and he shared some songs he'd been producing, and he asked me for some demos, and I immediately like got down to writing. I'm like, oh, I have to give him a demo. I don't have any demos. I have to write something now. And then so I sent him about four like super rough demos, and he picked See Through. He was like, let's work on this song. I'm like, really? Seriously? You want to get seriously? You know what? And I'm just grateful he made the time of day for me because he's a busy guy, and he ended up becoming a friend because we would talk about more than music. We talk about life, insights, travel, coping with the pandemic, things like that. And yeah, I'm just happy. You never know who you're gonna meet given this digital world. So that's the interesting part about putting yourself out there. It can be embarrassing sometimes to reach out, but you never know. You just never know.
That's true. I want to focus on what you said a while ago, which is things that you did during the pandemic. Because a while ago during the start, you said you became a plantita.
Well, not legit. By no means do I know anything about like all those rare
Horticulture and all that.
yeah, no. I don't collect those very expensive rare plants. That's not me. It's just that I've had a garden like prior to pandemic times that I'd never really paid attention to. So,
Uh-huh.
it's like just there, the plants were all looking scraggly. And then during the pandemic, you have more time at home. So you're kind of like, oh, okay, maybe this plant needs a little more love. And then I started loving on my plants some more and then propagating them. And now there's like a lot of them. I don't think I'm at the level where I would drop like a lot of money on some rare plant. That's just not what I do. Respect to those who can do it. That's not me. But like I'm enjoying having something to take care of, like, just at home. It's something to get my mind off things or to de-stress.
Right. Aside from being a plantita, another trend that emerged amidst the pandemic would be people supporting local. And they started making, let's say, ube pandesal,
Oh, yes.
or they started supporting the homemade cold brew coffee.
Oh, yes.
Did you ever get into this trend that you supported something that's locally made amidst the pandemic, or did you ever sell something? Did you make, let's say, ube pandesal, or did you ever get into something like that amidst the pandemic?
Well, with supporting local, I think, and I'm both grateful and proud to say this, but I have been supporting local for a long time. in most my gigs, if I can help it, I will usually wear a local designer or local weaves. That's why I noticed the mask you were wearing a while ago because of the Lumad weaves. I love wearing local textiles because my gosh, Philippines has some of the most beautiful weaves you'll ever see. Like, and we have pinya. Like, who makes pineapples into cloth? That's so cool. So if I can help it, I will wear local to gigs, to concerts, to events. Um, and then food, yeah, we have great food providers. I don't make ube pandesal, but I often order from like friends who are selling it online. So yeah, I mean, I'm down to support local anytime. I love it. I'm sorry, I can't really make local gowns or pandesal, but I will be a happy customer.
Oh man. For those of you guys who don't know, Nicole actually has her own YouTube channel, and one of the videos that really caught my eye was your special memory, the studio recording with your own mom.
Oh, thank you.
What was that like working with your mom? Because I know you guys are, again, like what you said, a family full of people who are musical by nature. But for that specific project, what was it? What was it like? Because I know that song is special to your mom.
Oh yes. It's her signature song, and she recorded it in the '80s before I was born. And I think at the time, and if I may quote her because she's not here right now, but if I may quote her, like it was offered to her to sing as part of a movie soundtrack for the classic film Hot Shots. And at the time, she was like, okay, yeah, I'll sing the song, not thinking that it was going to be a huge hit. And the movie became a historical hit, and so did the song. So it's really the song that changed her life. Miss Cecil Azarcon is the songwriter, and Mr. Homer Flores was musical arranger back then in the '80s. So when she sang that song and it all worked out for her, she had an instant career because she didn't want to be a singer either. Fun fact, she also wanted to be
A lawyer.
Yes, it's true. She was taking pre-law also. So I don't know why, but like I didn't plan on it, but maybe I was like subconsciously following my mom's footsteps, and then she ended up in music, and then I ended up in music. So growing up, I would hear people like, "Oh, okay, so you're Iwi's daughter. Can you sing her song?" And I would always be so afraid to sing it because you can't compare. Like she's
She's
the
OG.
OG.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? So I would always shy away and be like, just sing something else. So that song that changed her life, it just was more than a song. It was a whole life span of experiences. And when the 35th anniversary of that song came up, um, I was like, maybe we should just have a fun version, like change it up a little bit just to give a different flavor because there's no way I'll ever compete with the original. Like it's don't do it. Like just
Yeah.
don't touch, don't fix what ain't broken. And so I was like, yeah, we could do it for fun, and I'm grateful she obliged. It was like, the conversation went back and forth a couple times, and I'm also grateful that the songwriter, Miss Cecil Azarcon, gave her permission. So we got the rights to remake the song, we shot it, and we released it on Mother's Day. And I'll never forget that Mother's Day because it meant so much. And also, in arranging the song, I thought it was pretty cool because the arranger back then, who's the famed Homer Flores, like he does all the big arrangements for, some of the big TV shows here and some of our biggest artists too. He is kind of like a father figure in music to the arranger that I work with, who his name is Nico Rivera, and I was like, how cool is that? Like father
Small
and
world,
son
yeah.
in music and actual mother daughter. So half of this song is actually arranged by Sir Homer, which is my mom's half, and the other half is arranged by Nico, which isn't normally done in the music industry to have like one arranger take half a song and another arranger take
It's usually
another
one,
half.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one or a team that are working together. So it's like, hey, this is kind of cool. This is special. Let's do it. So yeah, I guess it all came together, and I'm just happy that my mom gave me the time of day to revisit all those special memories of hers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for your mom, that was the song that changed her life. I want to ask the question to you. If you had to choose one song that would probably be the song that changed your life thus far, what would that song be?
Wow, I don't think I've met that song yet. I mean, there are many songs that impact my life, but to completely change it and change
Mm-hmm.
the course of my direction, I haven't met that song. I'm looking forward to the day, or maybe I'm slightly fearing the day, but like I'm looking forward to the day that I meet that
Mm-hmm.
one song that's gonna
Right.
change my life.
One thing that's unique about you as well, comparing to other artists, would be because you also write your own songs. You're a songwriter as well. Um, and have you ever encountered a song that, when you heard it on air, maybe on a radio station or maybe like through Spotify or whatever, you were like, "Damn, that was a really good line. I wish I wrote that."
All the time, all the
All
time,
what's
yeah.
one that comes to mind?
Oh, you guys played it kanina. Seal's Kiss from a Rose is such a beautiful song because there's so many key changes, but like it's still relatable and it's
Uh
so
huh.
beautiful. Like, you know, um, my goodness, there's so many now like that are really good songs. Like, or even like a good line
Uh
in
huh.
a song. You know,
What's your favorite line? If you had to choose one, like it doesn't have to be your own song if it's not, but like what's your favorite line from any song?
oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think on this one. I'm so sorry. I don't like. I can't think of one now because
Yeah.
there's so many good songs, all generations, like there's no
Yeah.
particular like decade that has all the best lines. They're spread out. And yeah, I think about that all the time. If there's one song I really wish I wrote, I wish I wrote Happy Birthday. 'Cause
Imagine the
you're
royalties.
right. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah. I want to go back to musicals because you did say that you come from a family that is into musicals. Like, is there one that stands out as far as being your favorite show is concerned?
Oh, there's a lot of good musicals, and I don't even think I'm that updated in the
Yeah.
theater world. Like I have not, run around the theater circle in many years, so there may be some musicals I haven't seen.
Right.
Of the ones I have seen, I would love to be a part of Jesus Christ Superstar because it marries, right?
Ah,
I mean,
yeah.
like, it marries rock and roll and theater, and
Right.
I think it's a perfect marriage.
Quick shout out to our boss BA. He's that's one of his
Oh
favorites.
yeah, hi, hello, boss.
One of the things that I failed to ask Nicole during the on-air interview a while ago, on-air, I mean, by that I mean radio, is that I noticed that you have a lot of tattoos, and I'm a big fan of tattoos. Just because I had my first one done
Ooh.
a couple of months ago, and it always perks my interest whenever people would talk about their tattoos. So that being said, do you mind if you walk me through the different tattoos that you have?
Sure, but I'm also curious about yours because I was looking at it a while ago, and for those of you who can't see or don't know this, DJ Ryan has one in his inner arm.
Yeah.
And that is notoriously one of the most painful spots, or so they say, because mine isn't on my inner arm. So I'm curious, like, how much did that hurt you?
The honest answer is, and this isn't me being macho bravado, it didn't hurt at all.
What?
Because the tattoo artist was saying, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because the tattoo artist was saying, sir, that's actually a good spot for a first tattoo, because he was telling me that just don't get your first tattoo on the rib part, on the ribs.
Yeah, that hurts.
Because that hurts, that's for him the most painful spot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for those of you guys who can't see it, I do have my tattoos, the inner part of my arm, and it's Atlantean from the 2001 Disney film, and it says it's Atlantean for the pack survives, which is a line from Game
Ooh.
of Thrones. Because I am an introvert, much like yourself, and I have high walls as a person, and if I talk about that, I might have to see my therapist tomorrow. But yeah, it's a reminder that, like what Natalia says all the time, and for those of you guys who don't know her, she's our DJ that does 4 to 8 p.m. She always says teamwork makes the dream work, and I'm a very individualistic person. Not that I'm selfish, I think, but it's always, I tend not to bother other people if I can. Does that make sense? And if I can do it by myself, I'll do it by myself. I am not a big fan of like opening up to people. Which is so funny because I'm also an open book. But if I don't like showing emotion, so it's a great reminder for myself. Now you know what, Ryan, you can't make it in this life alone. Like as cliche as it sounds, like no man is an island.
Yes, it's true though. No
Yeah.
man is an island. I was actually watching TED Talks about depression because mental health awareness is so big right now, especially with
Mm-hmm.
what we're going through. And they were talking about how we were designed to be social creatures. I know this is totally off tangent, but
Go
yeah.
ahead.
I mean, yeah, and they were saying that it is actually such a big help to reach out, and that's the funny thing about reaching out is we just have to be mindful enough to reach out because sometimes people don't
Yeah.
reveal what's really going on, so we just reach out. And I'm cool. I think it's cool that you have that reminder on your skin. So at least, you put something positive on your
That's
skin.
true.
Why not?
But you know what my issue is? Because I gained weight over the pandemic. So now stretch marks are
Who
appearing.
didn't? We all did.
Stretch marks are appearing now. But that's enough about my tattoos. Your tattoos look cool, man. So can you walk us through it for our listeners and the viewers as well?
Okay, so I don't really have a deeper meaning.
Uh-huh.
I'm a huge Salvador Dali fan, as was my dad. So I was first like introduced to the work of Salvador Dali because
Mhm.
my dad loved it so much, and I do miss my dad very much. So I'm glad I have this little reminder on my skin. But yeah, it's just call it fan art, but it's part of his cosmic elephants painting,
Yeah.
and those long-legged elephants actually recur in many of Dali's paintings. I think it's there in The Temptation of Saint Anthony and some other work of his. So I don't know. I just thought it was cool and surreal and dreamlike. Will I regret it one day? Who knows? Maybe, but
Maybe.
it's a part of my life. Life and life changes. I change. I evolve. I grow, and this is just a chapter on my skin.
Right. Any other tattoos that you maybe want to share with us?
Well, I have one on my left shoulder. It's my first one actually, and it's lyrics from one of my old songs with General Luna. The lyrics are not important. What's important is why I got it, which is hilarious because I actually got into an accident. This was like towards the end of college, right? Where I busted my collarbone and it was so bad. Sorry if you're squeamish, guys, but it actually came out of my body.
How did that happen?
I fell because I was
From the 44th floor?
no, one of my friends was giving me a piggyback. I don't know. Okay, so I'm small, right? Like, I don't know if y'all know this. Like, some of you have met in person, so you know I'm small. But a lot of people think I'm tall when they see me in pictures, and then they meet me, and then they're like, "Ah, liit mo pala." And so, because I'm small, my friends think it's fun to carry me. As if I'm a toy, right?
Yeah.
And so it was one of those like kalokohan moments, just
Like,
kalokohan.
bone was sticking out of your body?
Pretty much. My skin was like tenting because the bone was. So, anyway, long and short of it, it was terrible. It was a terrible, terrible thing. But I don't wish this on anyone. I had a surgery, I had a big scar, and we had a song that had stuff about scars in it. So I just put lyrics over it, just to like decorate my scar.
Ah.
But then it's faded. It's such an old tattoo. So yeah, and it's part of my weird chapters of life. Many moons ago, many lifetimes ago.
Dude, that is such an interesting story. And as far as tattoo origins are concerned, that is up there, like nasa top siya ng list. So, I mean, who can say that I got my bone protruding and I got a tattoo, right? That's such a cool story, I find. I want to go back to music and you as an artist, and since Neo Retro 1059 is all about merging the retro music and the new ones, I want to focus on the retro first. If you had to choose, like, your favorite song from the 70s, 80s, or let's include 90s as well, 70s, 80s, or 90s, what would your favorite song be?
Oh, ang dami. 70s. Well, I love a lot of the bands from the 70s. I love a lot of the rock and roll bands. I used to listen to a lot of like Led Zeppelin stuff like that. But I also
Ah.
love the soul stuff. Like
Right.
I love Marvin Gaye, I love um, Tower of Power. Um, I love Janis Joplin, and this is like bordering 60s and 70s. I
Yes.
know it's like the whole like revolution time, which is why there's such interesting music. Even here, with Juan de la Cruz, with Sampaguita, with our classic rock people. And then you also have, our golden era of songwriting locally. You have Ryan Cayabyab, George Canseco, you have Willie Cruz, the three C's of OPM.
Three C's.
Really, because they're all C's,
Yes.
and they're all like they have that melodic, um, I don't know, just I guess ecstasy is my word for it because it just takes you to all these places emotionally, and it was such a rich time for people to write music because so much was going on in the world in the
Mm-hmm.
70s. Obviously, I was not yet alive then, but I've been told by my parents, and I listen to older music. I love retro music for that reason because it's so reflective of the struggle people were going through. And guess what? The same struggle is happening today. Well, not the same struggle, but like a struggle is happening
Yeah,
today.
and it
So,
shows in our music.
right. And
Yeah.
only good music is going to come from it. And I'm that's one little thing I'm excited about despite everything else. So yeah, I love all those artists. 80s, I love Sting. I've said that a million times. I'm going to say it again. I love Steely Dan. Many of these artists are so monumental that they actually cross generations. Another artist that I am inspired by is Sade.
Mm-hmm.
She's
Smooth operator.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She's got like so many good songs, and I love her vibe that she doesn't really feel the need to make birit in every song.
That's true.
She's just
Yeah.
chill. She's just grooving, and she's chilling like a villain, and she's gorgeous
She is.
until now too. So I'm inspired by her. There's so many great artists. The
Mm-hmm.
90s, oh, I could go on and on because all the great bands from the 90s are so inspiring too. And I think the recording industry in the 90s had that magic because it was like the last of the analog. Sorry, gearheads, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a gearhead, but like it was transitioning over to digital. So they've really mastered that analog sound right before switching over to digital. So they kind of hit a peak there. And if you listen to the music that was recorded at that time, it just has that flavor, that grit that I love. And you have artists, female artists like Alanis Morissette, Annie DeFranco, one of my favorites, Fiona Apple,
Oh,
Tori
cool.
Amos.
Yeah.
These women who are so expressive and so naked with their writing. And that was something, that was refreshing in the 90s. All these angry women, right? but like, they really
No,
got
but
the message across.
empowered. Yeah.
Empowered, angry
Yeah.
women. But I love the creative expression that they have.
Yeah.
And that also inspires me.
Amazing. Okay, from the retro years, I want to go to the local artists of today. As someone who has been a part of the industry for years now, are there any new artists that I get that caught your eye or you want to collaborate with? Who are some of these local artists?
Again, ang dami. I could go on and on about this, but a few of my favorite local artists there's this band called Yosha. Like I share bandmates with them, but as a band on their
Mm-hmm.
own, like they're amazing. Like they're 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 um they're just mind blowing. Sorry, I have no words because they're that good. You guys should check them out. I love a lot of the newer stuff also. Like you were mentioning Casey a while ago. I love her.
Yes.
She's a nice person and she's a great artist too.
She's a ball of energy.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
ah, man, gabe energy niya.
Yeah, her stage persona is wild, and I love that about her. And there's a lot of bands also in the underground who are really great. They may not have been given their big break yet, but oh my gosh, world class, absolutely world class. Locally, where I used to hang out pre-pandemic? I used to hang out in this place called Balete. It's in Quezon City, and there's a big band that plays there, AMP Big Band, because I
Mm-hmm.
love big band music. That's the other side of me, the non-rocker side of me, likes big band classics and listening to Sinatra and that old era, you know.
Yeah.
And I used to just go there, and it's a house that they set up with a stage, and I would like find my little spot by the stairwell, which is where I feel had the best sound, and get a beer and just listen to big band music. So sometimes, you know, the non-pop scene has these gems, and locally I look for that. I look for something different. I look for someone that doesn't sound like someone else, because that's what makes my ears perk up and be like, wow, sino to? Gusto ko to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, makes it interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could give, I guess, one more tip, because I that was pretty much the OG tip, which is don't be somebody else. But if you could give aspiring musicians one more tip, coming from someone who has reached such, I mean, your career basically speaks for itself. What tip would you give aspiring musicians?
Wow. I'm not sure I'm in the position to give tips because I'm still learning. But um, maybe don't let anybody put you in a box. Don't let anybody tell you, this is what you're good at, stick to that. I've been told that my entire life. And maybe they're right. Maybe
Mhm.
I was wrong. Who knows? All I know is I can't stay in a box. And I can't do just one thing. Because people will comment, hindi, mag-rock ka na lang, dyan ka bagay. Ha, wag ka mag-rock, di bagay boses mo. Ha, baduy. Oh, nagja-judge siya ngayon. Bakit? Jazzista ba siya? Kaya ba niya mag-scat? You know, people will test you all your life. But it's up to you whether you want to listen or not. And never, never put yourself in a box and give yourself limits. That's like telling a child, you can only stay in that corner of the sandbox. You can only play with that sand.
That never goes well.
Like, come on. Like, why would you tell a child that?
Yeah,
It's the same.
the child will explore. The child will go out of the sandbox and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so people ask, like, what are you? Are you a rocker? Are you a jazz singer? Are you a, classical singer? I'm like, I am none. I am just me. There are other artists who
I'm
do
just
it
having
too.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, Lady Gaga does it. She's amazing at it, right? She does all genres. And
Yeah, dude, she has a jazz album. She has jazz
brilliant.
albums. Yeah.
They're brilliant. She's a brilliant jazz singer. She's a brilliant musical theater artist. She's an actor too. I mean, it can be done.
Yeah.
And the brilliant thing that we have nowadays is, social media. You can literally be someone today and someone else tomorrow. But, however, at the end of the day, I think it's also important to have a good sense of who you are and who you're not,
Yeah.
so that you have that one thing people remember you by. Is it your voice? Is it the way you write songs? Is it that signature thing you do on stage? Is it your image when you sing? There's something. You know what I mean? So you don't lose that. You can do a million things, but you still have that one thing that will make you very Ryan or very Nicole or very whoever you are, right? So having both, I don't think you can go wrong. But then again, people might disagree.
And that's what I love about you. You're so cognizant of the fact that you're still learning, that you're still growing, and that you're open to other people's ideas. And for those of you guys who don't know, I mean, obviously you guys won't know this because you weren't there, but when Nicole got to the station, she was so game to do everything. Like our boss even told her, "Hey, maybe you can be a guest DJ for like one song." She was like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it." And we were offering her a lot of things, and she was like, "Yeah, no, guys, I'm chill. Like I'll be here." So I think again that just says so much about how amazing you are as a person. And as we wind down on this interview on the podcast, and I think I asked this a while ago, but I want to zero in on you as a person and the message that you wanna bring out there, that you wanna tell people. If you want our listeners to walk away with one key message from this podcast, what would that message be?
Thanks, Ryan. That's so thoughtful of you. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. It's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. It's been such a great, uplifting day, and well, I don't really know what to say, but I do want you guys to feel that everything is going to be okay. It'll work itself out. So let's not put too much pressure on ourselves to get it right, because we're supposed to fail. It's part of life. let's also not take for granted the opportunities where we can do something to succeed or to help others. Because ultimately, that's our purpose. We're supposed to help others. We're supposed to reach the finish line together. I know we're all running in different paces, but we're supposed to do this together. We're supposed to help one another. So, it'll be fine. Might not be fine tomorrow, but it will be fine. And I hope we can all somehow put our trust and our faith in that there is a plan, and that plan is for us to make it out okay. So if you have the chance to say something that will uplift somebody else, take it. You won't lose anything.
Beautifully put. Thank you so much, Nicole, for dropping by Casual Conversations. Again, our very first episode, and we couldn't have thought of a better person to have for the pilot episode of Casual Conversations. But before we let you go, anything you want to plug? Where can people find you? Instagram, YouTube, you got new music coming up? Please let us know.
Thank you. Well, you can find my music on Spotify, Apple Music, any of your favorite streaming apps might have it. On social media, it's at Nicole Asensio on Instagram, Nicole Asensio on YouTube, and Nicole Laurel Asensio on Facebook. I also post updates of my performances there. I have some digital shows and appearances that should be out soon, so stay tuned. And I look forward to somehow crossing paths with you guys again.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you so much, Nicole. Again, that was Nicole Asensio for Casual Conversations.
Hi everyone, it's Nicole Laurel Asensio, and I am so happy to be spending this time with you guys today. Thank you for having me only on Neo Retro 105.9's Casual Conversation.